Good evening, everyone. So I've heard that there are already a few of you waiting, which is really exciting. Welcome to another sew stream. Of course, you all know me. I'm Tara. But for those of you who don't know, this is a virtual sewing and crafting group. And basically, we are meeting every week to talk and laugh it up and to make projects. And so this week, I am still working on my chemise, but only just barely because it is finished now. I can actually show you.
I tried it on last night and it fits well.
That it is done. It has sleeves. The sleeves are finished. It has a body. It looks really nice. It has all of these gathers that took absolutely ages. The gathers themselves took, I don't know, an entire afternoon. I mean, it was a really long haul. But what I'm going to show you sewing-wise today is how to get those teeny tiny stitches that are down there in the gathers, keeping them in place. And that's called a whip stitch. So we will get into that. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about something that's very close to my heart and my mind right now. And that is staying sane when you feel like you're drowning on a crazy deadline. So let's go ahead and jump into that. As you know, Lawrence is moderating, so keep it cool. Feel free to have discussions with each other. That's no problem. Just, make sure that you're being nice because he is at the helm. Say hello.
Hi, and I'm absolutely terrifying, as you know.
So, yeah, have fun, discuss, take a look, listen, whatever. But before I get started into all of that stuff about how to stay sane, because let me tell you, it's as much for my reminding as it is for your information. I do want to remind you that I right now have a Patreon special offer going on right now. And what it is if you become a patron of $5 or more per month by September 10th, then I will send you a cool old Hollywood style photograph of myself and I will sign it, love me or whatever we decide. So if you would like to do that, Lawrence is going to put the link in the chat box.
It's already in there.
Hey, what do you know? He is a step ahead of me already, which is not surprising because, again, I'm a little manic today. So let's get into the content. Like I said, I want to talk to you about something really important, and that is staying sane when you feel like you're drowning or dying or something on a deadline. And, making sure that you keep that deadline, but also keep yourself intact in the meantime. So the first thing that I want to talk about is procrastination. For a number of years, I was a huge procrastinator, and I feel like sometimes I still am. I don't know about you, but I know that when I get really stressed out, there are two things that I go to first, either food or my phone. And both of those are no-nos when you are on a deadline. So the biggest thing that I can say to start with is the mindset change. You have to make sure whether you're making a blouse for your niece or you are making a chemise, that you are staying away from anything that is a procrastinator. Make sure that that phone is put on silent. Make sure that your husband is in the other room. No offense, Lawrence.
None taken.
And make sure that you are 100% focused with your project in front of you before you can tell yourself no. That is number one. The second thing is you've got to take care of yourself. And there are really kind of three parts to this, but it's really, really important that you eat the right things to keep yourself healthy. So again, along with not going to that food and not procrastinating, you really need to make sure that you are eating the right things. So for me and Lawrence, what we've been trying to do, and sometimes succeeding at here in the last few weeks, is meal planning and then meal prepping in advance so that we already have things in the fridge ready to go for when crisis strikes, like, for example, Lawrence breaking his ribs, possibly.
Right. For that is a crisis.
Yes.
Thankfully, we did stock up on Cadbury's fruit and nuts, so we're fine. That's what you're talking about, right?
No. Fruit, vegetables, all those good things that you don't necessarily want to eat, but you need to eat.
It's in the title, fruit and nut. Sorry.
The point is, Make sure that you already have that stuff in the house, that it's already stocked, already washed, already cut, already made, so that when push comes to shove and you are like right up against the wire, then you can literally just take it out of the refrigerator or the freezer and then put it in the microwave for 2 minutes and it's good to go. So keep yourself stocked up before it's time. Or if you have more money than I do, you can even buy like prepackaged meals that are low sodium and have vegetables in them now. Crazy, right? The third thing is you're still going to be taking care of yourself, but you need to thrive in your daily routine. And what I mean by that is make sure that you are, and Lawrence hates this about me, by the way, he can attest to this, but make sure that you are on top of your schedule. And the way that I do that is I literally have an alarm for everything that I have to do throughout the day. And I know that sounds crazy because it is a little bit crazy, but it has kept me on track on the whole. I would say that I am killing the 80-20% thing when it comes to staying on schedule. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and just to clarify, it's the alarm portion of all of that gives me anxiety. The rest of it, of course, staying on top of scheduling, that makes sense, especially when she stays on top of my scheduling too.
But of course, the thing about it is, even though it gives me anxiety to hear those alarms, it strikes action in me as well. It makes me jump, so I go right into that next thing. So if I know that there's an alarm for me to go and check on the garden at 4:15, I'm going to go and check on that garden because I want to turn that alarm off that's in the room and is nagging everyone in the apartment. Make sense? Great. The fourth thing is, and again, going along with that taking care of yourself, you need to just stop and breathe sometimes. I particularly have problems with this. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but you really do need to just take a moment, breathe, might be 2, 3, 5, 10 times even. A little bit goes a long way to making you feel centered and ready to continue on into that next part of your project. And I feel like that honestly is the thing that I always need to remind myself about the most, because I feel like I'm always on the go, always moving around. And the other part of that is, along with breathing, do whatever makes your body feel good. So even though you've got this crazy deadline and it feels like you can't move things around, you probably still have 10 minutes for some yoga or for a walk or whatever it is that just makes you feel better. And for me, it's those two things, or like a little bit of weightlifting. Like I really, really like to get up at, I don't know, like 6 a.m. and just like blast some music and weightlift. And Lawrence loves that too.
Yeah, I love your sarcasm also.
So make sure that you're like just doing the things that make your body feel as good as they possibly can for as long as they can while you're keeping up with the crazy deadline. Number 5 is you really just need to like look for that light at the end of the tunnel. If it feels like, and in my case, I know it feels like there is just like no end in sight, you don't have any time in the foreseeable future to do anything special or interesting or extra, or even just to take time for yourself to like read a book or whatever, then you just have to remember, when is my deadline? When is that ending? Cool. I can do this until then. I promise. And just remind yourself, this is not going to be forever. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you are good to go from now until then, whether it's tomorrow or 2 weeks from now in my case, or like a month from now, which it was 2 weeks ago for me. And it doesn't matter what the project is either. It could be something little or something that feels like it's insurmountable. If you remind yourself there is an end to this, then you will be just fine. Number 6 is changing the concept that rest and relaxation needs to be, again, food, phone, TV, Amazon, going shopping, or even just like taking a nap. Make it some kind of active rest and relaxation. Like for me, I have learned to appreciate over the summer the gardening thing way more than I ever thought that I would. I was really excited to have a garden because I wanted to grow my own vegetables, and I've done that now. Yay. I haven't finished, but I started now. But I never knew or never really thought that like having that garden and being there in that space and, you know, pulling weeds from the ground and watering it and cutting the vegetables out and, you know, like making it look nice would be a thing that actually relaxes me, but it does. And for you, I bet there is something out there that you just love to do. It might be drawing. It might be, I don't know, going out for a drink with a friend, or again, even just taking that 10-minute walk. But there is something active that you can do, that you can think of as rest and relaxation, that will just take you out of that moment, reset you so that you can get back into it. And then finally, the thing that I want us all to remember, including myself, is that this is not a Sisyphus situation. We are definitely going to push that boulder over the edge. Okay. So again, back to that light at the end of the tunnel situation, you have to change your mindset to make sure that you understand that it's going to go on to the next project or on to the next thing. It's going to end at some point, and that is a good thing. And until then, you've got all of these actionable steps to get there. So in my case, of course, it's making a mock-up, which is what I'm going to start on tomorrow. And you will be happy to know, on that note, that I have washed the fabric and it is still just as green. I even put it through the dryer, and yes, it did shrink a little bit, which means it's real cotton, guys. Yay. And so it's been in the dryer, it's been in the washer, and it is nice and green. And I am so excited to get started on the dress itself. But before I do that, I am going to do a mock-up of the bodice part, at least, just to make sure that it fits appropriately, because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I got these and they're not exactly small, unfortunately. And this is a lot smaller than them. So I don't fit into regular clothing most of the time. And I bet some of you have the exact same problem. So always make a mock-up if you're making something that is specifically bespoke for you. And even in the Reconstructing History pattern, it suggests that you do that, which, by the way, now that I've read through the entire thing a couple times and I know everything that there is to know about what's going to happen when I start making this pattern, I am absolutely in love with it. This is by no means a plug that has been paid for or is like sponsored or anything. I just absolutely love this pattern, and I highly recommend buying a pattern from Reconstructing History because it's been fabulous so far. It's given me way more detail than it needed to, and it's just been terrific. So yes, as a reminder, my project is a chemise and a gamma. And when I say chemise, what I really mean is a camicia or a camicia, because it is an Italian undergarment that goes along with the gamma, which is this lovely dress here. And it's based both off of some examples that you'll find on my website, oldfashionedaf.com. And it's also based just as much on the movie Ever After, because I was a little bit obsessed with it as a preteen. I am still trying to figure out if there's a way to make a watch party happen, by the way. So if that is able to happen in the next 2 weeks, I will absolutely let you know. But in the meantime, that's what these things are, modeled after, made for. So now you know what the project is like. You've been updated if this is your first time here, and I'm going to show you just a little bit of stitching. So as I said, this guy is held together with, basically this is just a band that I made of the exact same type of fabric, which is a beautiful batiste made out of cotton that is held together with itty bitty, like the teeniest little whip stitches that you ever did see. I have gotten way better at whip stitching recently, apparently, and now I'm going to show you how to make that. So you can see I've got a much bigger example here, and I've got some red thread. And what I've done is I've made some really big whip stitches. And the way that you sew a whip stitch is you stick the needle basically parallel to your hands into the fabric, pull it through, and then what it creates, if you don't get some beautiful thread moments like that, is this wonderful little whip. So again, you stitch the pieces that you want to put together, make it parallel to your hands or your fingers, And then a little tip to keep it from doing that beautiful stitch art there, as I call it, is put your thumb over where the entrance of the stitch is when you pull, and then you're less likely to get some extra pulling or snugging or whatever. The only reason why I'm still getting it now is because I doubled the thread for you so that you could actually see the stitch pretty well. But then one more time, you just stitch it through, pull it through, and then you have a beautiful little whip. And it really isn't necessary to double the thread. Like I said, I only did that so that you could actually see the stitch. And these are much bigger than the stitches that I've been doing on the piece. The stitches I've been doing are more about that size. So they are, if you want to see the scale here, only about a third of the size of the stitches that I just showed you. So that is the stitch work that we are working on today. And hopefully next week we are going to get the chance to, hello again. We are going to get the chance next week to talk about patterns and some of the ways that we read patterns, and maybe field some questions when it comes to that. But in the meantime, we still have a few minutes left, a lot of time, in fact. And I want to know about your projects and any questions that you might have, both about my project, about what I've talked about today, about the stitch work, about anything having to do with anything that's happened so far in our virtual sewing circle. So, Lawrence, what you got for me?
We've got quite a few things. And hello to everybody that sort of said a variation on hello. That includes Julie, we've got Tart and Tabby, we've got Sandra, we've got Sue. Did I miss anybody? We've got a few people as well, more than that. There are 8 people on. So if you feel so inclined, do say hi in the live chat. But going back, let's see, going back to meal prepping, Tart and Tabby says, I did some of my meal prepping today. It is a lifesaver.
Hey, I never really thought that that was a huge deal until, again, like I started doing this project, which is hilarious because P.S. I've been out of college like 10 years. I should know these things, but I don't somehow. I don't know how I'm just learning them. So I'm glad that you learned it before I did.
And this was in relation to the chemise itself, I believe anyway, because this was right at the start when you were showing it. Sandra says, beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
She may have been talking about you.
Doubt it.
Or me.
My hair is really manic today. I finally, by the way, for those of you who are following me on Instagram, I am taking care of myself, and I did finally have a shower. But that said, because I had to have the shower this afternoon, some of my hair in places is a little bit wet still. So even though I tried to roll it and I tried to dry it, it is very manic today.
It's looking fine. And let's see, I'm just going to cycle through the comments here.
Great.
Sue says, Fly Lady is a home management system. Pre-planning meals is on the weekly schedule.
Okay.
So, looks like, yes, those pre-planning meals is a popular thing. Tart and Tabby says, I used to like, or rather I should say, I use like 3 notebooks and 2 journals for lists, meal plans, chores, etc. Because I'm obsessed, shall we say, with office supplies.
I used to be as well. Now I pretty much do everything by computer. We have such a small space that I feel bad buying really anything. So I try really hard just to keep my calendars, etc. Even my like weekly meal plans that we share. Everything is right here on the computer. And that makes it a little bit easier just for me, first off, to transport things back and forth to work or, you know, to other places, as one does throughout the week. But also because everything lying around in this teeny tiny space gets on top of me. And I don't know about any of you, but I feel really anxious when I have too much going on in a space. I really like things to be neat and clean and organized as best as I possibly can with the chaotic life that I lead.
Sandra says, I started transcendental meditation last year. It's been really helpful. That's something that I know that Mr. Jerry Seinfeld swears by.
All right. Well, I know that it exists. I know Lawrence likes meditation a lot. I have never been able to get into it. I've tried a couple of times over the years. It's just, I don't think it's my thing. Although that said, I do really like yoga, and I feel like exercise for me is a form of meditation. So
Sue says that knitting is an awesome relaxation.
I can see that. Yeah. If I already like sewing, I've heard over the years that knitting is a very relaxing thing to do. But I know that if I'm doing this, and by the way, yes, I am still hemming it. That's the only thing that's not done. But let's be honest, like, it's done. I could wear it right now. That's all I care about. But if I have something like this that I'm doing that is very much involving my hands and involving my mind, working my hands, then I think that knitting probably isn't going to be the way that I relax, just because I've already been doing that, for the entire project.
Sandra says, or rather asks, is this the same stitch you'd use to hem trousers?
Honestly, I would probably use a slip stitch, which is actually more of what I'm doing right now, to hem the bottom of this. And in fact, I can show you that right now. We'll probably do like a slip stitch later on. But the reason why that is a better stitch for something like hemming trousers, which I've done actually on Lawrence's trousers before in the past, is that you barely see it on the outside. So you literally just take a teeny tiny amount of thread from the garment on the outside, and then you slip the needle through on the inside. And then what it creates is this wonderful stitch that is very strong, and you can't see it on the outside at all, which is amazing. Now, this is the kind of stitch that is, as far as I'm aware at least, has never been able to be created on a sewing machine. So this is definitely like a hands-only thing. But take a look there. See, those are my two little slip stitches. And if you're doing that in the same color as whatever the garment is that you're working with, you cannot see them. But what's happened is the piece of fabric has created a barrier between the stitch and the fabric. So it's just not going to come apart no matter what you do, even though you can't see it on the outside. It's amazing. It's my favorite stitch, I think.
J Joy joined and said hi. Hello.
Hello.
And as did Jeffrey Martin.
Great.
And the latter of whom says, I used a series of whip stitches to reattach the cape to one of my son's plush toys.
All right. Sounds great. I hope it was a beautiful decorative whip stitch that was in like a contrasting color, because I feel like for little kids, that's what I love to do, is like contrasting crazy colors, almost like this, in fact, no matter what it is that I'm stitching.
And Sue says that there's no current project for her, but she is midway through a move, but look forward to watching your videos. Need some inspiration, which you are providing.
Oh, great. Well, I'm really glad. Tell me also, first off, I'm really glad that some of you are sharing your own techniques for, staying sane on a deadline and having, kind of your energy used in a positive way during those times. But how do you feel about talking about topics that aren't necessarily specifically sewing related? I'm really interested in your feedback on that, because I know that a few of us, at least in the comments, don't necessarily do any kind of craft work, or if they do, it's not necessarily sewing. So I like the idea of maybe broadening the topics like I did today, so that, we're providing inspiration and we're talking about things that have to do with anybody who is like a creative maker. Tell me what you think.
Sort of like talk and sew.
Yeah. Which, is what a sewing circle is, really. But the thing is, I'm not a huge gossiper. So since I don't do that noise, then it's probably better to actually like talk about a topic. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, Tartan Tabby certainly looks forward to pattern reading tips and says that she's intimidated by them.
Oh, don't be intimidated by patterns. Honestly, if you've sewn anything before in your life, and I used to be intimidated by them myself as well, I will tell you right now, you probably know more than you think you do. And so even if you have trouble reading parts of a pattern, then you probably are going to do better than you think. And yeah, I'll have lots of interesting tips for you next week. I even have to refresh myself a little bit on them too, because while I love this reconstructing history pattern, it is unlike any pattern I've ever read. So I probably won't be using this as my example, just so that you are aware. But we will definitely talk about some regular patterns that you'll see, the simplicities, the Vogue patterns, those things that you're more likely to take a look at or have as your first sewing project.
We have about 5 minutes remaining. We have some more comments.
Great.
One of those from Beth Meredith. Greetings. Really enjoying your channel.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Hey, so I have an idea, guys, and I know that there are not a huge number of us here tonight. But that said, I don't know if you've noticed, the subscriber count is definitely still going up. And I'm thinking that if I can get us 500 subscribers by Friday night, then I will have another bonus sew stream on Saturday or Sunday morning. So help me do that. Friday by midnight, 500 subscribers. We'll do another bonus this weekend. It is going to be amazing. It probably won't be the pattern one because, again, that's going to take a little more research. But I will come up with something that is equally as exciting. And that will be just for you if you guys help me with that goal. So 500 subscribers by Friday night at midnight. Do you think I can do it? I don't know. I don't know if I can or not. But I think it's an amazing little goal that we should work on together.
I like that. I like ambition. That sounds good to me. And Maggie Londoner, loving the name. I'm using loop yarn to make a baby blanket for my new nephew. It's very quick and easy.
Congratulations on your new nephew. I'm so excited for you. You should definitely tag me in some pictures when you're done because I would love to see that.
And Sandra, yes, I did notice you said trousers and not pants, and I appreciate the reference there. Tartan Tabby, fun, loves the fact that other people are having babies. It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really glad I don't have babies, but I do like being the cool aunt. So there is that.
Did you, this is a question, this comes from Tartan Tabby, did you practice different stitches like a medical student would, or did you just learn through creating different projects?
Honestly, a bit of both. That is a really good question. So I went to school, to college for theater, and a lot of the work that I did was costume design. And part of that was costume construction. So I did take a couple of classes in garment construction specifically. And so hand stitching and machine stitching were both a part of that. I'm not sure how well I did at that point, but certainly over the years, the more projects that I've done, the more talent I've accumulated in that. Because for me, and this is me speaking as a teacher, by the way, and as a friend, as opposed to somebody who's instructing you on how to sew, I believe intrinsically that everyone has talent in anything that they want to do. It's just the question of, are you going to put in the time and the effort? So the more that you practice the stitches and do it with intention, then the more likely it is that you're going to get better and better at them. I don't care where you're starting from. You could be, again, like me, college educated in the subject, or you could just be somebody who decided to pick up a project today and start from scratch. Doesn't matter. We're in the 21st century. You have a computer at your disposal or a phone or something that is connected to the internet. You can look this information up and you can absolutely start it yourself from scratch and become probably 1,000 times better than I am, if I'm honest, in not a very long amount of time, as long as you're actually putting in the work to do so.
We have a consensus among Sandra, Tartan Tabby, Maggie Londoner, that different topics about other things are absolutely welcome at these discussions.
Great. I am very happy about that because, I think I have ideas floating around in my head that I would absolutely love to share with you guys. What do you think about the 500 subscribers before we go? Do you think that we'll make it? And how do you think I should approach that?
Good question. That's going to be exciting. We are now at about the 30-second mark. So over to you again, wife, for wrap up.
All right, great. So first off, thank you, Lawrence, and everybody should thank Lawrence again. I absolutely loved that happened last time.
So
thank
did
you so much for
I
that.
felt special. Thank you.
Because you are special.
You say that on camera.
But I thank you so much for joining me again. Thank you for watching the stitches, for listening to my banter and my jabbering on with the crazy hair today and the crazy, see how crazy I am with my snips inside my garment that I'm working so hard on. Yeah, don't do that. But thank you so much again for my manic behavior and for appreciating that in some capacity. And I will see you on socials. Let me know all about your own topics. And maybe I'll see you on Saturday morning. 500 subscribers. Let's see. Bye now.